Hello. I am. I'd like to call to order our. Is it on? Is it on? Oh, there we go. She did tell me I had to turn it on this time. I'd like to call our June meeting for the Liberty Grove Historical Society for 2024 to order. I want to welcome all of you. There are a lot of new faces in this room tonight. I think in part thanks to Charlie. We're all excited to hear Charlie. Okay, you know what? I'm just going to hold it. I'd prefer to hold it anyway. How's that? How's that? Okay, good. Because if you can't tell, I'm a little anxious today. I was a speech major, that's what I was, and tonight I'm a little anxious. Because there's a lot of new faces. I know that there are a lot of new people. I gotta take my reading glasses off, now I'll look at your eyes. So if you're new, if you haven't been with us before, do you mind just at least raising your hand and just telling us who you are and how you heard about us and all that good stuff? Jeff?
Oh my goodness. Well, my name is Jeff Utching, and my wife here is Melissa, and I'll let her speak for herself, but we're retired folks for 5 years now from Milwaukee area, and we live in Cottage Glen, and we drive by here a million times. We know some of these people fairly well, including you, Stephanie, we didn't know you, and we'll look to get involved a little more.
Awesome, thanks for coming.
Yep.
Come on in, there's still room. Anyone else brave enough to raise their hand? And
I'm Joe Titus, my husband Bruce, and we live on Sand Bay, so we've known Charlie for a long time, and we've been up here a long time. Anyway, we're just anxious to hear him. That's the big draw tonight.
it is. It's not me.
Tell them who you are, Danny. They'll say be 5 minutes.
So, I'm not Santa Claus. I might look like him, but I am from where Santa Claus is from. I'm from Alaska now. My great uncle Charlie owned most of Ellison Bay at one point.
Wow.
My dad fished here. My uncles fished here, whitefish and chubs. Let's see, my dad's dad fished here. We grew up on NP. The Kellys now own our homestead. I had an injury when I was 50 years old, broke a couple vertebrae when I was in Alaska. I had bought a boat. I had 3 boats here at the time. My dad and me came back to Ellison Bay here after I started getting my feet under me again. We came to fish a little bit to help me out with my medical bills at the time. And I was like, he's like, this is kind of fun. And so we stayed by Charlie's place down in Sand Bay the first year, and we did that in the spring. And we had fun. And then So then every year I go back to Alaska, and my dad getting older, obviously. Actually, I had purchased a boat that he was the very first deckhand on. By Clarence Lynn owned the boat. You might know him in town here. His name is C.W. Lynn. I bought the Kelly, who the Petersons had at one point.
Lee and Percy.
Lee and Percy, yeah.
Lee and Percy.
Hey, come on in.
I renamed it after my daughter, Alicia Ray. Anyway, so every year, me and my dad would come back I'd come back from Alaska to fish with Dad for 6 weeks or so. Charlie Henriksen was so gracious to accommodate us with a dock and place to pack our fish and stuff. So we did that until, well, dear old Dad's getting older, and it wasn't quite as much fun because of the invasives and stuff there in the water system now. So he decided he didn't want to fish anymore, and I was like, okay. And you know, it wasn't a make money thing, it was a father-son thing. So we ended up, like I say, using my dad's boat, the boat that my dad was the very first deckhand coming out of Bay's ship in Sturgeon Bay. It's sister ship to the skipper that sits there, exact same boat. And then we just decided that it wasn't so much fun anymore. My dear old dad passed away this December. And anyway, I don't need to talk about that. Thanks.
What's your last name?
Anderson.
So Charlie Anderson, who owned
Charlie
the
Anderson,
transport?
all that stuff here in Nelson.
So we're talking about Alvin Anderson and Gabby and
But
Gabby.
Charlie was,
Clyde and Clarence, the Cubbies were Danny's uncles.
and Charlie was the uncle to, so Charlie and my dad's father were brothers.
Okay, thank you. I'll
Oscar,
have to track you down.
yeah.
Yeah.
I'll track you down sometime.
Okay.
Lena was my friend.
Really? Okay. So anyway, so Charlie, I knew this, I was back here to deal with some things, and I knew this was going on with Charlie, and being a close friend of his, we're here, and after tomorrow, I'm heading back to Alaska.
Nice. Well, thanks for traveling all the way here to see Charlie and us. Anyone else new that wants to raise their hand and say who you are and where you're from? I know there's some new ones here because you know what? I've been here from the beginning. So, all right. I don't normally dress like this. I just have to start by saying that. So. All right. Yeah.
So begs the question, why?
I'm gonna get to that right now. Gather round, folks, come and cheer. A no-bake bake sale, the event of the year. No ovens, no stoves, no baking at all. Just bring your donations and join our grand hall. In our quaint little town where history shines bright, we celebrate the past with pure delight. The Liberty Grove Historical Society, with love and pride, invites you to help with no baking required. Picture the days of olden times where recipes were treasures like sweet little rhymes. From icebox cakes to pudding so sweet, every bite you take in your mind is a heritage treat. We've got pies that don't bake, cookies that don't brown, Crispies and fudges that'll never let you down. There's peanut butter bars and chocolate eclairs, every bite a story from our ancestors' lairs. Lemon icebox squares with a zesty zing, and no-bake cheesecakes, oh what joy they bring. Marshmallow delights and coconut dreams, candied fruit and nuts in whimsical themes. Each treat here whispers a tale of the past, crafted with love, designed to last. So come one, come all, to our no-bake affair, with sweets and history, a delightful pair. Support our cause, let history thrive. With each no-bake bite, our past comes alive. For the Liberty Grove Historical Society, your presence we treasure. Join us, indulge in this sweet little pleasure. So here's to a no-bake, delicious parade, where history and flavor, in your mind, are lovingly displayed. Your donation, your smile, your heart's little beat, keeps our museum site alive, oh so sweet. Now I'm sure you're all wondering why I'm dressed like this. For those of you that made it to our potluck last month, already got a little dose, but we have officially kicked off our capital campaign to pay off the property. My co-chair is Vonnie Carlson, and I don't see Vonnie here tonight. My co-chair is Vonnie Carlson, and you know what? Neither one of us want to ask anybody for money. So I made the pledge to dress like this until our mortgage is paid. So last month, I was a cake. This month, I'm a donut. I don't know how many more costumes I can come up with. Here is my jar. I can tell you that we don't have that much left to pay on our mortgage. And I wish I could give you the exact amount, but I didn't put it together. Barb, do you have the? It's okay. What I can tell you is we owe less than $50,000 on our property. We started off with a mortgage at $250,000, and we're down to the final stretch. I've been here since the beginning, and I will stay here until the mortgage is paid. And I've made a commitment to my board that the mortgage is going to be paid by the end of the year. And I would appreciate any pocket change that you have. That's all that I'm asking, because Vonnie and I are not going to come and knock on anybody's door or call anybody and ask for money. If you find it in your heart to donate to our historical society to save the property, there's the jar. And I'll keep wearing my costumes until it's paid. So. All right. On that note, my president's report is just me. I'm going to tell you a little bit about my day. So, does anybody know what day it is today? Monday. History Week. It's the kickoff to Door County History Days. And I was blessed with being able to be the representative from Liberty Grove Historical Society, and I took a ferry ride this morning with other Historical Society members, and we got to take the cherry train all over Washington Island.
Wear that?
I did not wear it, no. I should have. I told a few people that I was going to be wearing it tonight, though, so I'm sorry I didn't tell you, Terry. I'm sorry. Anyway, I have always felt, since the moment that George Voight asked me to join the Historical Society, I wasn't from here. Like, I'm sure like a lot of you in this room, you're not from here. And that was my way to learn more about the history of Ellison Bay, and also to give back to my community. And what I learned today on Washington Island, when you go to a different spot in the country or across the world, I just encourage anybody to search out the historical societies in that area, and just look to see what that area has to offer, because you know what, it's going to tell you a lot about the community. And I'm here to tell you, my gosh, on Washington Island, there were a lot of nooks and crannies that I had never seen, and I'm so glad and so thankful to Cheryl Culver for allowing me to be the one to go today, because it was a really nice trip. So anyway, any area you go to this week in Door County, we do have more of the flyers on the History Week. There are lots of events every day from just during this week. So we are blessed here at the top of the hill that we have our annual meeting on the Monday of History Week for the third year in a row. This week we also have our Fish Bowl, which is our number 2 fundraiser, and it's also our opening of the grounds. So it's a big week, and it's a big week for us here. So thank you for coming tonight to help kick off. This is part of Door County History Days, so thank you. Raffle tickets. Raffle tickets just came today. If anybody is interested in raffle tickets, this is a raffle that we will run through our tractor show. Karen, I think Karen's going to have them in the back. I do have some up here, but Karen will have them. Barb has them in the back. So another one of our big fundraisers. I want everybody to give a big round of applause to all the people that have taken the time in the last few weeks to get the building looking like this. Because I'm here to tell you, if you would have been in here about 2 weeks ago, I walked in here, I was like, oh my gosh, we got so much stuff over the winter. They had a lot of work to do to clean out the barn for all of us to sit in here. I'm here to tell you, from here to all the way back to where everybody's standing back there, it was chocked full of new stuff that came in. So if we could give a nice round of applause for all the people. Karen is super instrumental with getting the volunteers coordinated. Our grounds, I don't know, I've been coming up to Ellison Bay the last few weeks quite a bit, and each day, I mean, it always looks nice. I mean, Dave, how many times have you been on the lawnmower so far? A lot. Dave does it himself. Al and Mary, I see you're back. Yay, Al and Mary are back for the grounds with Liz. Carolyn and Don, right here, Carolyn and Don, they were the ones that, all that stuff that was in here, they took pictures of everything. They have done an enormous amount of work. Carolyn and Don have done more work than I will do all year. So thank you, Don and Carolyn. All right. I was a little anxious today because of our Volunteers of the Year award. And for those of you that don't know me, my history is I started here in Ellison Bay as a waitress. And I worked at the Viking for 20 years with Dan and Wendy, who have been to every one of my family weddings, have been to every one of my family funerals since I have met them. And I'm looking on my phone. They are expecting a phone call. And they're probably going to say, are you on Tammy time? That would be my sister, because she's always late. Because I told them it was going to be about 7:15. All right, I got to look up my... So Dan and Wendy know, I used to have a board member. And he'd call me and he'd say, when's our meeting? You know, why don't you send out an invitation to all of us for our monthly meeting? I'm like, our monthly meeting is held the third Monday of every month, and has been. And Dan and Wendy, I'm here to tell you, know that every third Monday from May to October, that's when our meeting is. I'm going to try to reach her right now. They're expecting us. It's their Nordor. Dan has his Nordor meeting. And so Dan, I think, has made it to one of our meetings. But Dan has done so many behind-the-scenes things. And before I say any more, I just want to I might shock them with this hat. Hello. Hello. Okay, I just want to show you my costume, Dan. Look what I am.
You're a donut.
I'm a donut, my favorite, a Viking donut. We all miss Viking donuts. Okay.
Wearing a donut costume.
Okay, I'm going to switch. Look at all these people.
I see them. Hello.
Hello, Dan and Wendy. Hello, Dan and Wendy.
Hello.
So even though Dan has not been to a meeting and Wendy has not been to a meeting, I am here to tell you that every meeting that I have been to for the last 20 plus years, Wendy has gotten a phone call before every meeting, because I've called her before every meeting that all the years that I've been here. And Dan would always make sure that if there was anything that I needed at the top of the hill here before any of our meetings, he made sure that it was done for me. So I am so proud. This is why I wanted another hand. Dan and Wendy received the Don Overby Volunteer Appreciation Award for the Historical Society. They're the 2023 recipients. And I'm really excited because they're with all of us, but you know who they're also with? They're with Dan's friends that have been with him through thick and thin for all of these years too. Dan, they're probably having cocktails. They're having cocktails. Dan and Wendy have helped us with every fish boil that we have had. They have helped us with rummage sales, which we actually, as a society, owe Dan for, what do you call those, like pedal bike things, exercise bike, because one year we had a rummage sale at the Viking Annex, and we sold it. One of the volunteers went in the back, and they sold it, so we actually still do owe Dan for an exercise bike. He's not gonna. So anyway, I thank Dan and Wendy for all the years that they have helped me out and have helped our society out. Does anybody have a word that they would like to say about Dan or Wendy while they're on the phone with us?
I miss the Viking.
Ditto.
Thank you.
Ditto.
Thank you.
Many times Dan would, if you've been to our fish boils, he would come around the corner with a Viking costume on, or he was always the behind the scenes guy, and that's exactly how he was when he had the Viking. If there was somebody sick, he would be there with a cup of soup. And he didn't want to thank you, he just wanted to smile. That's all he wanted. So anyway, what's that? And Dan will be here Thursday. Dan and Wendy. They'll be here Thursday for our fish boil. So, all right, thanks, guys.
Thank you.
I'll have a cocktail with you later.
Okay, bye, guys.
Bye, love you.
Love you too. Thank you.
Dan and Wendy always knew when our meetings were because Dan always had a meeting too. So, anyway. All right. Committee reports. Anybody have a committee report other than what's on here? Nope. Okay. Fish boil Thursday. This is our third year at the top of the hill. We always had the fish boils down at the Viking. We've had it up here on site for 3 years. It's kind of a little nerve-wracking, but you know, it's been very successful here at the top of the hill. We offer fish and chicken, so if you don't have a reservation yet, don't fear. I might know the one that's in charge of the fish and the chicken. Me and Charlie. So anyway, we accept walk-ins. So even if at the last minute you decide that you want some chicken or fish on Thursday, we'll be glad to serve you. So fish boil, I will, after Charlie's done tonight, I will have a volunteer. I have a couple slots that I may need filled, but I can say that this year I have 3 new volunteers, which actually none of them are in this room right now, that came to us and said, hey, we'd like to help. So I have been told that volunteerism is down and the percentages are way down, but I'm really impressed with our volunteers that we have. So be here 4 to 8 on Thursday. We have a little addition this year. This was very last minute. I didn't have anything to do with it, and I am I'm thankful that it came to fruit. But we're going to have music on Thursday. A few local musicians. I think there's 5 of them that they're parts of a couple different groups. They're combining forces, and they're just going to play a little music up here on Thursday. I also do have, they're going to be available the night of the fish bowl. We had a donation from Jim Ingwerson. If you don't know who Jim Ingwerson, he's a local artist, a world-renowned artist that has donated a couple prints to us, along with a couple of his books. So we'll be raffling those. But it should be a nice event. And I just ask of all of you, if I ask of one thing out of you tonight, can you just say a prayer to the rain gods that there's no rain? Because we don't need any more rain. So, okay. All right. I don't like it that I do all the talking. Opening day. You want me to talk about the quilt?
Just that I'm here,
Oh.
and we will be glad.
So Linda Wilkinson is at the back of the room. She made this beautiful quilt at the back of the room. It's also another item that we will raffle. The raffle will not take place for the quilt. The winner won't be selected until July, correct?
It's a chance to win this quilt for a $5 donation. So it's not really a raffle. So if you fill out your name and address and a very clear phone number, goes into this can, and then at 2:30 on Sunday at the tractor show, we'll have the drawing. Last year it was northern lights and dark skies. This year it's summer blooms, and the back side is thunder and raindrops.
Last year's quilt that Linda made brought in how much, Linda?
I sew in Arizona,
She sews in Arizona.
so this will be the 3rd quilt
And
that I've made.
how much did we take in last year, just for your quilt?
Made, $573, and the agreement was that I take $50 for just, minimal cost. There's about $130 of fabric in there, not time or anything, thread and all that. So, anyway, so.
Awesome.
I made $500 again this year, so.
No, let's make 1,000. And what I can tell you is the other thing too I'm going to go back to this hat and this donut. So our events that we have are not going towards our mortgage this year. It's this hat and this donut costume that are going to pay the mortgage, okay? So, Dave. Oh, I'm sorry. Opening day. Karen.
Opening day.
Opening day.
We have a special guest speaker, Sam Holloway from the Forest County Potawatomi community, to help celebrate the people that were here before all the Yankees and the Europeans showed up. And for hundreds of years, the Potawatomi settled the northern tip of the door. And it should be a very interesting talk. You don't want us telling the Potawatomi story, so we brought in the expert. And the good news is, regardless of the weather, the barn is dry. So, at 1 o'clock. Lots going on Saturday, this Saturday.
Yeah, there is a lot going on in Ellison Bay on Saturday, so don't let any detours stop you from coming to the top of the hill. You can still get here. 1 o'clock.
And all the buildings are open.
All right, Dave.
Tractor Show, the 27th and 28th of July. Please come. If you have a tractor, any condition, any shape, any year, any make, any model, bring it. You still have time to go and buy one if you don't have we still need some volunteers to help. Food line, maybe beverages. I think we're okay on LGHS 10. But Liz is going to be calling people for,
Come see me after.
or come see her after, come see her today. It can be, there's morning and afternoon shifts both days, Saturday and Sunday. We have brats, hot dogs, potato blossoms, ice cream, and somebody needs to handle that stuff. So if you can spare us 2-3 hours on either of those days, see Liz. And the weather's going to be beautiful. Thank you.
You might see someone in an ice cream cone costume. Maybe. No, ice cream cone. Ice cream cone. All right. Our June meeting is our annual meeting each year. So this is the slate for this year's election of officers and directors. President, myself. Vice President, Cheryl Culver. Treasurer, Barb Zekin. Secretary, Dave Weston. Directors, Vonnie Coulson, Nancy Kurtz, and our newest, Al Nowacek. Now we also do have other directors, but we don't vote on them each year. So this is my slate. Dave, do you?
Move the approval of the slate.
Second.
Okay, any discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? All right. What you see is what you get, a donut costume. All right, does anybody have any other? No? Okay. I am going to sit down, but I'm going to, this is our sign-up sheet, so I'm just going to, well, Charlie is doing his presentation. If you wouldn't mind signing in for us. So at the back of the room, we do have some refreshments if anybody wants to grab. They actually just brought fresh coffee in right as I was putting my donut costume on. There's some water back there. There's some dips back there from that Charlie and his family brought. There's some cookies back there, so if you want to get up and grab something right now, otherwise make sure that you have something afterwards, but feel free if anybody wants to get up before Charlie comes up. Okay, I don't see anybody getting up. Okay. We'll just wait a minute, just so that everybody can grab something that wants to grab something. We do have, while everybody's doing that, we do have, if you're not a member, which I encourage you to be a member because our membership is very minimal. We do have, if you haven't received one, we do have our current newsletter here on this table. The Door County History Days. I mean, take it. There's a lot of info. There's a lot of that. I was reading on the ferry today. There's a lot of good articles in that. The other thing that's up here on the table, I encourage you to come take a look at. We're going to be getting a new sign, and Cheryl didn't stand up for other, but we're getting a new sign up here. It's taken, I don't know, 3 years, 4 years, 5 years. to come to fruit. But Cheryl has been very instrumental in our new signage that's going to be up here at the top of the hill.
If anybody wants a History Day flyer, they're here and they're in the Pulse. I didn't get my Pulse this week.
I didn't know.
Is it closed enough, Cheryl, or? Yeah?
I think I hid my hat.
You know that you and I are.
No, I don't.
Okay, I'm probably relative to a whole bunch of people. You're a Teskie, a Carlson.
Okay, so you talked about the raffle.
Okay.
Yeah, I thought Dave was going to talk about it.
I'm Gabby's son.
Well, she was getting nervous.
I just haven't
Add a little.
You heard about that?
Oh, my reputation for safety. Okay. Well, that's good, I think.
Now don't forget, I have this nice container, my little bear container. I do have to tell you, at last month's meeting, there was a very small gathering of people, and just last month's meeting, we got $200. So each meeting, we need to double it.
So I don't have to wear this anymore. Oh, I think it's so flattering.
Okay, let's get this show back on the road here. So. You're gonna. Oh, you.
You broke it. If I don't introduce them, we'll have to get the hook, so. So does everybody have their coffee and beverages? I'm Karen Board Moran. I'm the archivist of the Liberty Grove Historical Society, so I spend a lot of time researching the past. But it's also important to look around you and see who's out there making history right now. I mean, now we know that Dan made history, right? Yeah, you were a mover and shaker. There you go. Well, the fact that you're all here, you're making history. And at Liberty Grove Historical Society, we strive to preserve the past. I was feeling very guilty. This table doesn't have a tablecloth on it because it was one of the 8 piles of donations that met me when I came at the end of May. And we put it to good use. We repurpose, and I hope you'll look around at some of the signage to see how things are repurposed and preserved. Well, today we welcome another historic character, Charlie. Charlie and I started our life in Door County in the 70s at the Norland Resort. My parents bought one of the first cottages. It was the first condominium in Door County. The Norland Resort is right across from the Mink River Basin. And Virginia Hansen's parents had been running it before that. So lots of history. And maybe you even ate at the Marco Polo, your first that was your first business enterprise, right?
Actually, first we had Charlie's ice cream.
Oh, well, the ice cream, all of us that had cottages and our children and our grandchildren, every day you had to have ice cream. So anyway, what's special about tonight is Charlie is continuing the traditions and the skills of the past, but moving it forward with the new technologies that are around to make it a successful enterprise to be a commercial fisherman with the help of his son. You want to wave, Will? There's Will's in the back, and his daughter-in-law, Kristie. So, it takes a team to have a successful business. Now, they work on the bay and in the lake and on land at the corner of Old Stage Road and 42. And if you haven't been there, you need to come and visit, especially after you taste the great dips, and you're going to want more. I have it for breakfast most of the time on a bagel. This Thursday at the Fish Boil, as Steph already said, we're eating Charlie's and Will's caught whitefish. And they will be fresh. They will be fresh. They'll be out there the morning before. No? You're going to send Will out. Are you going out? Oh. We're working on tomorrow. Oh, okay. So what's really special about Charlie's commercial fishing these days, there have been many rough hills and valleys in the industry with the lamprey eel and the alewives and lake levels going up and down. And this effort for sustainability, which Charlie advocates for, also has a history here in Liberty Grove. I mentioned that we're going to hear about the Potawatomi beliefs about sustaining the life of the natural resources. That's why they loved and settled in the tip of Door County, because they didn't all congregate in one place. They lived in small family clans and harvested the wildlife and the fish in their area. And they were aware of managing the natural resources. And that's basically what you're doing now. So he's going to tell us more about that. So I'm going to turn it over to Charlie, and I know he'll entertain questions at the end. Is that how you like to do it, or do you like people to interrupt you?
They interrupt.
You'll handle them? Okay. There you go. He'll take care of you. Okay, so welcome Charlie Henriksen.
Well, Karen kind of stole my whole talk here, so anyway, no, I'm going to back this up a little bit because, 51 years, a little more than 51 years ago, I was a dumb college kid in Illinois, and, I didn't really know what I was doing in college, but I was there because school came kind of easy and it seemed like a thing. Well, my dad bought this hotel in Ellison Bay that he just randomly walked into Kellstrom Ray's agency, and it was for sale for $21,000, which now you could sell it for, who knows what you could sell it for with housing the way it is. But anyway, he bought it, and so I said, well, I'm going to come up for the summer and help him out, fix it up. The Harding family that created the condo that Karen was talking about, it had an ice cream parlor. So it was simple. It was an old American plan resort, so there's all kinds of stuff in there. So we started selling ice cream, and my sister... Oh, okay. You can't hear me? Oh, now you can? Oh, there you go. All right, I'm going to scare myself. Yeah. So anyway, that was a big turning point for our family. My sister Sally's here, who never lived here but came here very often. My older sister, who I've been following my whole life, so wonderful thing. And she's here with her son John, who actually has come up a couple times in the summer and helped us fish. He found a real job now, so he doesn't come anymore, but he likes to visit. So anyway, we're here. And the other people who didn't stand up and introduce themselves is Larry and Nyla Wickman are here from the Wickmans of the Viking fame from long, long ago. And then later in my talk, or very soon in my talk, I'm going to mention Craig Woerfel. And Craig's better half, Sue, is sitting here right in the front row. So, and she's become a very good friend. So, is this working right or not? Okay. I have trouble with microphones. Anyway, that's how I came to Door County. And Ellison Bay was this wonderful place, and there are all these wonderful people there, you know, that I got to meet fairly quickly, really. And the fishermen were just fascinating, you know. And I had the opportunity after that first summer here that I tended bar at what was Clayton still, but Clayton in Virginia had sold it. So I had met them. They left that business the same week I came to town. So I don't think I scared them away, but they just moved up around the corner. And, you know, to get to where they lived, you had to go past Gus Klenke, who was in his garage all the time then. You know, Clarence Wickman was always coming to town. So, not Clarence Wickman, Clarence Lind, excuse me. Yeah, thank you, Jane. I won't be able to make any mistakes. Jane's going to keep me on track here. So, but so it was a pretty interesting time, and there were a lot of characters around Ellison Bay, a lot of good people, and I thought, well, this is kind of nice. I think I'll stay a while. So here we are, 52 or 51 years later. So it's been quite a ride. A lot of good people in Ellison Bay. But what happened was that next winter, Clayton said, hey, my friend and I are going ice fishing. You want to come help us? And I didn't know nothing about it. You know, I knew I liked the water. I knew I liked the boats. I knew I didn't mind working. So I went with them. And I helped them for 2 weeks. And there's just one anecdote I got to tell you about it. But we're out there and we're setting nets, and Clayton had this big old hole cutter mounted on a sleigh with a big snowmobile engine, and then there was other things, and we're setting nets, and I think I was pulling the line, and then Clayton, he starts yelling, and I don't know, everybody who knew Clayton, when he started yelling, you know, he was a force. So then I finally get close enough to hear him, and with all this noise out there and the wind's blowing, and he says, God damn it, if you get that hair out of your ears, you could hear me. You had to get the dig in, because I had a little bit of long hair then. So anyway, but
Last name Voight, Clayton Voight.
Clayton Johnson, yeah. So anyway, unfortunately, that 2-week period happened and my dad died. My dad had a heart attack. He was actually up here for the weekend. We had a wonderful time. He stayed an extra day. Monday morning he got up and didn't feel good, laid down, and when I went to check on him, he was having a massive heart attack. So it kind of changed all of our lives, but you know, it kind of left me here. So by then I had been hired to manage the resort, and the building was there, so we ran it the way we did for another year, and then I bought it from my mom. So once again, not knowing what I was doing, I brought in a friend, and we opened a restaurant called the Marco Polo, and the food was good, but that building, I think the only time I made any money in that building was when I had a foosball machine in the ice cream shop. So those kids shoved quarters in that thing like crazy, but never quite figured the profitability on the other stuff, but it was all good. So the next winter, I say to Clayton, I said, you know, you're going to want some help again, because I really liked what I had tried to do. And he said, no, but he said, there's these 2 young guys up north that are probably going to want some help, he said. And I'll let you have a couple nets that you could, like, work with them on shares. So he sent me up, and I hooked up with Jeff and Mark Weborg, and life has never slowed down since. So they were just starting their business, and they were real go-getters, and we had a lot of success. But I was only fishing in the off season, so I'd work for somebody and then I wouldn't. End up working with Charlie Voight and Paul Goodman, who fished together at that time, and then I worked with Frank and Neil Teskie quite a bit. Got to know all the other fishermen. Clyde Olson would always come down because his family had a tie to the hotel. Russell Hansen stopped every day. He just wanted to know what was going on. He told me that he had to find out for Virginia what was going on, but I think it was just Russell wanting to know, you know. So he was always around. So it was a unique time. So I want to say in 1978, I convinced my partner that he had to run that restaurant without me, and I fished all summer with Jack Schmirler, another local guy who fished off and on for a long time. And then the next year, my partner left town. I ran a restaurant myself, and then the following year, we turned it into apartments and ended the dining room part of it. And I went fishing full time. So I worked with Jeff and Mark Weborg and their father Marvin. I started working for them on Labor Day of, I think, 1979. Could have been 1980. I'm not positive about the year. But I've pretty much fished full time ever since then. And hooking up with Jeff immediately hooked me up with Elaine Johnson, who's been a favorite around here forever. But Elaine was a real go-getter, and she had done a lot of work to create a statewide fishing association. She worked very hard at politics. She wrote letters. She had files on everything that ever happened in the fishery. So the first time that I had any idea about anything like this was one of those first years, and they said to me, we're going to Madison. And, you know, I was an Illinois kid. It was like Madison. I think I'd driven through there one time. But somehow they convinced the Natural Resources Board that they had something they had to hear. So I don't remember who, but they found somebody to fly us to Madison. And we flew to Madison, and Elaine was best friends with the secretary, not the secretary, the secretary's planner, that secretary. So anyway, we walk in the meeting, and everybody says, oh, the fishermen are here, and they jumped their agenda and let us talk. So we were there about half an hour and went back to the airplane, and had something to do with you know, the trout, which at that time we still were thinking we were going to get them pretty soon. And it was a big part of the commercial fishery that had been closed for restoration. And they told me, here, just take this, and they gave me this big treble hook Rapala and said, just go up there and tell them that there's no way that these sports fishermen are catching and releasing with this big hook, you know. So that was my first time talking to the Natural Resources Board. And I'm sure I've spoke to them in the ensuing 45 years, probably about 150 times. So, and many different things. But anyway, that's what got me going on that. So, as part of the state association, Ricky Johnson from here heavily participated, Jake Ellefson from Washington Island, and Randy Sorensen, Jane's cousin, Leif Weborg, was very much a part of it. It's how I got to know him. And it was quite an experience. So I seemed to have like kind of an affinity for it, and didn't mind talking a little bit, so they let me do it. And that's where I first met Dan. Dan was on the Lake Michigan Commercial Fishing Board, which is a governor-appointed board that advises the DNR, or tries to advise the DNR. They don't like to listen, but we're still fighting that battle. But anyway, one thing led to another, and then I met Will's mother. We got married. We went on our honeymoon. We came home, and I was the president of the Fishing Association. as my stepfather then said, wow, that's really impressive to get elected to a volunteer position. So, and a little segue here, you know, as Stephanie was talking, the volunteers around here are incredible. And she's not even close to telling you how packed this thing was just a week ago. I mean, I thought, oh, great, you know, we're doing this talk outside. So anyway, pretty good what they do here. So anyway, there were a lot of other people. My neighbor across the street was Deanie Johnson, you know. So a wonderful guy. You know, Ronnie Fondry worked with Dean, and they had the anniversary celebration of the centennial that turned into Ellison Bay Days that we're reviving this year, Ellison Bay Day. And so that first year, Ron says to me, "Hey, I got to be out of town. Would you take over the stuff at the beach for me?" And I'm like, okay. And 22 years later, I still hadn't seen Ron again at Ellison Bay Day. We were good friends, but we didn't actually see each other all the time. And so that was part of it, you know. And when I started working in Gills Rock, I got to know Howard and Emery Weborg, who were there all the time, and there were, you know, other people, Eddie Mikolash, just nice people in the fishing business. And it always fascinated me that they could do this fancy, heavy work and yet do this minuscule net work. You know, you can see the net on the reel back there catching midges, and I always thought that was pretty impressive. So I kept on. Anyway, the other people in Ellison Bay I gotta mention is we all know Lon and Ruth Ann Kapitsky. Well, Lon's father, John, and Mrs. Kapitsky, you know, ran the door reminder, and Lon and Ruth Ann worked with them. So one of the things I did every December is they go, "Hey, stop over," you know, and next thing I'm stuffing envelopes for their mailing. But it was just good stuff to do. So as we moved along, what happened is I became president of this association, and at that time, you know, I was working for fishermen. I did not have a fish rig, and we were in the process of ironing out the details of limited entry, which had been passed as a law in 1977, but it wasn't fully implemented until 1988. There had been some quotas enacted in the Green Bay perch fishery, and then there were some in Lake Michigan chub fishery. But part of that time, the chubs were shut down, and so there's a lot of different things going on. So what we worked through there over a number of years was how to keep the fishery viable and yet not have these huge swings up and down and big effort changes that were very problematic to the sport fishery and even to some of the commercial fisheries. You know, if somebody caught a few fish, there were suddenly 12 boats in their harbor and their port. So it seemed like a win-win to all of us at the time, or at least a necessary evil, because the sport fishery was very anti-commercial fishery at that time, and you know, that was a nationwide thing that was trying to minimize commercial fishing, and unfortunately there's some diehards that still think that way. But so we hammered out this compromise, and we allocated the quotas for high value species, and we had 4 or 5 of them. But then environmental changes over the next 15 or 20 years changed everything. The perch in the lower Lake Michigan stopped being as plentiful. That was part of the early life cycle stuff where they weren't getting the right nutrients. I'm not going to get into the science of it, but they weren't getting the right stuff at the right time. As they were closing that fishery, Dan and I were going to fly to Superior, Wisconsin with a guy out of Sturgeon Bay, and we got about to Minocqua, and that plane started going, and we're standing there just scared shitless, you know. So the guy flying, he got nervous and he started circling, you know, which is what he's supposed to do. And then he's telling me, look for, you know, that airport in the guide, and there was nothing there. So we circle, and we can't find who we're supposed to call, you know, what airport. And we're circling, and we're about halfway down, I'd say, and this man, also named Dan, says, well, worst case, you guys could rent a car and drive to the meeting. He was in the front seat. I was right behind him, and we laughed our ass off. Said, worst case? Well, that ain't exactly. That sounds like a pretty good case to me. So, yeah. So, one of those things, yeah. And then we went there and made a good argument that they should ease the closure of the Lake Michigan perch for another year, because if these fish weren't going to survive, why not catch them and make food of them? And the bastards shut the season down on us anyway. So.
Never fished it since.
No. So it was sad. It was one of those sad things. And then the chubs disappeared or stopped growing. There's still chubs in the lake, but there's nothing for them to feed on. The second mussel invasion, the quagga mussels decimated their food supply. So that the diparia, and that was the whitefish's food supply. So they've struggled to reproduce in the lake, which is where our biggest fishery was. We always fished the bay also, but the northern bay and the lake, which was our Door County fishery, really just kind of fell on hard times. And it's right now it's just a real shell of itself. But we're still trying to figure out what's going to happen there, and we don't know. But the amazing thing that did happen is those fish recolonized Lower Green Bay. And what also developed as they were recolonizing is the sport fishery started catching some whitefish hook and line, which had never been done before. I think it really started by the nuclear plants in Kewaunee County, where there was some warm runoff, and people would catch them there in the spring. And then some people from Minnesota said they caught something called a tulabee that's kind of like a whitefish, and they were catching them hook and line. But when they ended up in the lower bay, the sport fishery really started fishing on them hard. But that fishery continues to grow. The fish are in better condition. We've been working for 8 years to raise the quota over there, and slowly we have to a rule that we got in place 2 years ago. So finally this year, starting the 1st of January, the quotas reached the point that they slipped some stuff in at the end to set a maximum for Lower Green Bay, and we're just about at that. So that fishery isn't going to continue to grow unless we see some changes. But there was some real slippery stuff that gives you an idea about who we're dealing with. We had, in good faith, asked them about it, raise the quota. And they said, oh, we got this question, we got that question. So then we concocted a study that they approved, and for 3 years, they wouldn't give us a monitor to ride our boats. So it languished and it languished. Sea Grant was going to do it. They wouldn't do it. We said, we're going to hire somebody. They said, oh, you can't hire them, because then we couldn't believe them if they were working for you guys. And we're like, what the hell, So finally, we go to University of Wisconsin, Green Bay, and we get the professor there a little excited, and he found a graduate student who would do the study as it was created. And she was just a little slip of a girl who had graduated from Ohio State University. So we got to give her a real hard time about the Buckeyes and being here in Wisconsin. And she stayed. She's working in northern Wisconsin now. But they took that study and, just in a rush to judgment, they took her data and they took control of it. So then they created this information packet, and the 2 years of data they weren't in the same form. There wasn't the same thing, which seems like, somebody with a computer could do that like nothing. So, and then they didn't give us totals on what the bycatch was. But they had to admit it was very small. So anyway, then we started on this, And the second year, as it was becoming obvious that, some of their bullshit wasn't going to hold water and we were going to have to let us fish more down there, that we weren't decimating the walleyes and we weren't, anything else that they were worried about. So they said, they said, well, what if you start fishing more? If you get more fish, you're going to fish more. Something might happen. It's like this crazy stuff. So I just noticed your shirt, Pete. That's my restaurant he's wearing a shirt from. Anyway, sorry to break the chain here. I know you're all just really engrossed in my rambling, but anyway, they came last minute. So we worked on this for 2 or 3 years. The chair of the board I talked to monthly. The head DNR lawyer I talked to every 2 weeks. A wonderful, wonderful woman. And they finally come with their final rule, and they send it out on Friday afternoon of Martin Luther King weekend. So it has to go to the board the week after that. And there was like no time to change it. So these guys who took constant communication to form this rule, that whole weekend they wouldn't take my call. So I pulling my hair out. So on Tuesday I pull out, and the secretary of the resources board, who is not somebody I would deal with directly, and I call him up just as a last gasp thing, and he goes, "Huh?" He said, because they had told me there were some concerns in the upper level committee, and there was what was the other thing he said? I can't remember it. But he said to me, upper level committee. He said, "What the F is that, Charlie?" I said, "Well, I don't know. I thought it was your thing, And he says, No. So anyway, they called him back in, and we got the increase, but they put it off a year, and then they said that would be a maximum, because they tried to freeze it at where we were, and we didn't go for that. So it's crazy how hard we got to work. So one of the things that I've been trying to do the last couple of years, and Kristie has been amazingly helpful with talking about it and getting the word out. But all these decisions that are made, the fish management people refer to the public, and really that's like 10% of the sport fishermen that they can get rabble-rouse about stuff. It's not the regular guy. It's not any of them. And the consumers are completely left out of the discussion. They don't say, "Hey, you want to buy fresh Lake Michigan fish in your fish store or your restaurant?" So that's completely left out of it. So we've started to make some traction in getting people to believe that. But what becomes difficult is who you're dealing with changes constantly. I don't know how you follow it, but there's now there's not even a secretary of the DNR. There's an interim secretary, because the secretaries, the state senate, keeps kicking them out, and the governor appoints people to the resources board, and the senate has to have a hearing, and then they reject them. So I think about the last 10 or 11 appointees, there was only one that was officially accepted. So it's weird that you can serve on the resources board until you're rejected. Once you're approved, then you're on there for a 6-year term. But that's state government. And rulemaking in state government is so messed up now. It used to be that we could pass an emergency rule, and we could do that in a month. And we had on a couple things. We extended the whitefish season here in Door County by an emergency rule about 15 years ago, and added 6 days to the season, which is what everybody else fished around the Great Lakes. Some of the tribal fisheries go even a week past that. But and then a regular rule took 9 months, which we thought was outrageous that it took that long. Now it takes 2.5 years. An emergency rule takes nearly a year because of yeah. So what as this developed, the fish managers, you have to have a scope statement. So they write a scope statement. Sometimes they let us give input, sometimes they don't. They send it to the governor. If we don't catch it right away and get to him or someone in his office, that's how it goes, and it sets the parameter for what the rules could do. So it's pretty important document. But then it has a time lapse. So then they stall and they stall and they stall. So when you get to, which is what happened with the whitefish increase, we should have rejected it completely. But if we had, the whole process would have had to start over. So we took what we could get out of that, which was wait a year and not quite get all of it. But it's really difficult. So. There's just less fishermen, and there's less committed fishermen. We used to have, when I started, we had an association on Lake Superior that worked with us. We had the Green Bay fishermen, we had the Southern Lake Michigan fishermen, we had the Door County fishermen. And, that kind of went by the wayside as some of those fisheries failed. Then I got to where we still called in an association, but I had 5 or 6 people, I could talk to, and a couple of them died, and one of them moved to Alaska. So he's embroiled in, yeah, he just picked up the mantle in Cook Inlet and fighting the same thing. So anyway, that's the beauty of what we've done, but it's also the frustration of how it is. It's not the easiest business anyway, but with all these roadblocks and the inability to react to how dynamic the lake is, because things change in the lake, at the snap of a finger. It's just different, Those of you who live on the lakeshore, you're seeing alewife for the first time. Yeah, and it was an alewife die-off this year, which is, we had a smaller one, 10 or 12 years ago, and otherwise it's been, 30 years. So who knows? And there was a huge commercial fishery trawling for alewives when the alewives went crazy. And then they planted salmon, so they eliminated that part of the commercial fishery because those fish were more valuable as salmon feed, and they might be, but we've always tried to stress that there's room for everybody, and that's what we're saying now.
Kelly, can you summarize your day and your week or your month or your season in terms of you fish every day, how's the fishing then, how many people on your crew, tonnage?
No. No. I'll come back to it. Yeah. Anyway, yeah. That's a very interesting question. So we could talk about that, and then we could talk about the sustainability that was mentioned, which has always been something we've strived for, but there's a bunch of new exciting stuff happening. We don't have a typical day. Will and I agree that by the time we leave the house, and I've had some coffee and he jumps out of bed and goes, but by that time we're on plan D, so, because the weather, you might think you got a plan for the weather, and then things are different.
Is it just the two of you that go out every day?
No. We, right now, we're kind of, right, my sister here watching out for me. Right now, we're kind of operating at our max, and I'm not, I wouldn't say I'm semi-retired, but I don't go on the boat every day. I retired 10 years ago, and ever since I've been confused between retired and tired again. My conjunction's terrible. So, but anyway, we have a boat in Gills Rock, and if we're fishing up here a little bit, but the fishing's really slow. And then we have a boat in Sturgeon Bay, and the fishing's really good. So we're restrained a little bit down there by the availability of quota, but the fishing's unbelievable. Will was out with with 3 guys on the boat with him today, they caught 3,700 pounds of fish. So, yeah. So that's trap net fishing. Yeah, yeah. So he has 9 trap nets, or we have 9 trap nets down there, and try and lift 3 a day. And the fishing the last 3 weeks has been phenomenal. So that's our dock. Yeah. We work out of there. We have an office there, and we recreate there a little bit in the summer. But that was a very important port when we were catching a lot of fish in North Bay and down the lakeshore. But now we don't land so many fish there. We fish there a little bit in October, and then December and January. It's been a few years since we fished there in the spring, where we'd fish North Bay. But we still load nets there, we wash nets there, and so it's still. But as far as typical, it's always different. We'd like to think that if we're going to mount the effort, we'd like to think we might catch 1,000 pounds of fish. But we've gotten to the point where we can handle that 4,000 pretty well. And right now, there's a little less local demand for processed fish, so just dressing them and putting them in a box is much easier than filleting them or getting them ready for the shoreline fish boil you see here or anywhere else. So, I think we supply 27 different restaurants. So some with little bits, some with lots, so that keeps us on our toes. And then we'll get into the summertime, and that fishing, is not going to last at the level it is now. So we're talking every day now about if we should close a net or 2 and back off to save the quota. At the same time, they're easy to catch right now, and we think we have enough quota for later in the year to match what's available.
How much of the catch is whitefish?
All of it. All of it. Years ago, we were out there, and our local warden came by, and he had our fairly new congressional member, Joel Kitchens, with him, who I knew, and Joel pulled up. They pulled up alongside of us. I said, jump on, Joel, we'll lift a couple nets. And he went, what is the 2 nets? He said, there's only whitefish in these nets. Say, my friends here, Pete and Rodney, rode with us a couple years ago, said the exact same thing, and there's lots of people who threaten to come with us but don't make it, One of my really good friends has been telling me for 40 years, yep, I'm coming with this year. Yeah. So anyway, but there's times that changes, we'll see a little bit of other kinds, but it's predominantly whitefish, and that's all we take, so it's pretty good. So anyway, but Will's up here loading ice at 3:45 in the morning, so it's an adventure. So partly those decisions you make are what the weather's going to allow you to do, and then you try and push it as much as you can do. So it's a pretty good thing. So now tomorrow I'm going south, and Will's going to take a boat out up here. So we're going to run 2 boats, which we haven't been able to do for a few years, but we feel we've got some crew now that we can do that. So over the course of the whole year, our goal this year is probably to catch 220,000 pounds of whitefish. That's a little bit optimistic, but if things go right, we should be able to do that. But we've had years in the past where we've mostly fished Lake Michigan, and we only had 1 boat, and we've produced over 300,000 pounds of fish. So it's not impossible. So Door County regularly produces over 1 million pounds of whitefish. The last few years have been less, but that's pretty doable. So.
You should tell them that your limitations are the amount of quota you have.
Yeah, I think I said that, but not. I don't think they understood it. Or because I probably didn't explain it well enough. But the quota shares are incredible, and it's created a value. And when we did this, it created a value for fishermen who want to retire. You know, no young people are buying their crappy old boat. You know, they're buying, but the quota share, which is a percentage of the TAC, which is what the is set by the DNR, but our fishing board advises them. They don't listen to us, but we advise them on that, and that's how we got to that number in the lower bay. But acquiring quota is fairly expensive. There was one quota share that was about 13% of what the TAC was in the Southern Bay, and Will bought that 4 years ago, Will, or 5 years ago? 5 years. He paid over $300,000 for it. So Dan accumulated, he had the biggest chub quota and the biggest perch quota in Southern Lake Michigan. And he told me I should pay him not to buy any whitefish quota up here because everything he bought, what the hell? So yeah. But then he moved to Alaska, and all those quota shares he has, Will has now. So he's holding them in trust for him.
Hopefully he can use them one day.
Yeah. We all, yeah, and the perch. So as we're saying, it changes different times of the year. You know, right now we're very fortunate what we can catch. So the fish, besides what he bought, we rent on an annual basis. So there's no guarantee you're always going to get it. We had some guys who we rented, a guy and his dad's quota, and with the increase, we thought we were going to get like 60,000 pounds this year. Well, his brother retired as a tugboat captain and started fishing, and then the fishing was so good and started so early in the Southern Bay that they fished up almost all of that fish that we thought they'd fish like 20 and we'd get 60, and I think we're getting 10 now. So there's some variables, but we pay as much as 50 cents a pound for 1 year's access, and then we got to catch it. So it's there's some cost involved in running a boat. The good news is the price of fuel's down. It's gone down every week here for the last 8 weeks. So. Yeah, but we don't burn enough fuel, so that it really makes bottom line different.
Drawing young people?
No. Well, Will's young. You know, Will's 32, and he was with me on the boat, you know, his whole childhood, and then he graduated high school in 2011. He wanted to go to college to play baseball. And after a year of that, half a year of that actually, he came home and said, you know, the only stress in my life is school, so I'm going fishing with you full time. I'm like, oh yeah, there's no stress in fishing, so this will work out fine. But I got to tell you, the second boat we have, we bought a 45-foot Romer yacht in Chesapeake Bay. I've been looking for a big wide steel hull. So we bought that, and the only weekend I could get away was in early January when the Packers were going to have a home playoff game. And he goes, oh, no, they'll get the bye. I'll go with you. And then they didn't get the bye, and he still went with me. So I thought him not going to Lambeau to go look at a boat meant he was fairly well committed. So, yeah, and we never have looked back at that, you know. And it's a beautiful work machine, and Will did most of the fitting on it, welding and decks and all kinds of stuff. So pretty handy. He did learn something in school, so, and then self-taught. So moving on. My time up?
You're wrapping up.
Yeah. Like, you guys stole all my time. But anyway, what happened here recently is COVID. And we had a couple leaner years with the whitefish moving and the quota not being available, no chubs to fish. So we were a little behind the 8 ball already. And then COVID hit, and we had 2 years in a row where our gross dropped by about 25%. And that was as we were starting our business of creating products and selling retail. And we still were going backwards. But what happened, and it was kind of a amazing thing, Will's fiance at the time, now his wife, was selling dog treats, and her dog treats are amazing. She makes some whitefish, dried whitefish dog treats. But so that's part of the sustainability thing I'm going to talk about. But she, that spring, she started taking orders online. If you need something to eat, send us a message, and we'll leave some fish on our big trailer out in the parking lot when we were back at the cherry plant up Old Stage. And we don't care if you can pay for them. You know, I think at that time we said they cost us $6 to produce. We're selling them for $8. You know, what if you don't pay us anything, we don't care. Well, it being Door County, we never kept track. But there were many envelopes that said, here's for an extra 10 pounds, give them to somebody. So, I mean, it just makes you feel good about where you live. But the other part of that happened, and, you know, it's hard to remember how crazy this was, but Kristie went to go to the farmer's market, and they said, you can't sell dog treats. They're not essential. Remember, things were essential and they weren't essential. I said, well, obviously they don't have dogs, you know, or they would feel different. So I think I jokingly said, well, maybe you should take some whitefish fillets, and you could sell your treats under the counter, you know, kind of. And one thing led to another, and the next thing, she's creating products out of some of our less valuable fish, and opened a little store down the hill here right next to Gus Klinke's. And then we started getting it together a little and decided that it was time to build our facility here, which is really working out well. Yeah. So that was very good. And now we're making other products with stuff that we maybe weren't selling before, not selling as profitably as we are. But the last thing I'm gonna talk about is about a year and a half ago, I went to the Michigan Fish Producers Convention, and there's much more fishing in Michigan, you know, where we've got 4 rigs going pretty well in Wisconsin. That's all that's left. You know, they have 12 or 14, plus some tribal fisheries. And a guy showed up who was from the Great Lakes Governors and Premiers Association, which I had never heard of, but they're headquartered in Illinois, and at that time Governor Evers was the chair, so they change it every year. So this guy's gave this little spiel about going to Iceland, and they have this project, 100% cod, and they claim they're taking a cod that's worth about $10, and they're making byproducts out of it, where that $10 cod is worth several $1,000s. They're making collagen, they're making leather out of the skins. You know, they're doing a lot of things. So we've been, of course, talking with them. Everybody in Door County here has taken the pledge to support it. And it's an amazing thing, because I'm giving you all these tales of woe of dealing with our DNR, and here we have a government agency that's actually interested in helping our fisheries. So, you know, that $3,000 whitefish, that ain't ever coming to me, you know. One, because it's not going to happen while I'm still involved. But you know, somebody's going to have to build a plant to extract this stuff and do it. A couple of the tribes have, who they hoped would do it, have gotten into it. So now the big question is the logistics of it. But it's amazing that they're trying to do it. We just got these hot off the press, brochure about it. Will's got some in back. There's a few here, but we'd be happy for you guys to take a look at it. And we're not asking you to donate or anything else, so we just want you to know about it. They're not asking us to donate. which is crazy. You know, you should be, yeah, we could do this for you. Write us a check. You know how that stuff works. But anyway, that's the latest thing we're doing. We already use almost all the usable part of the fish. Some of the bones and the offal we send to a company that makes liquid fertilizer out of them. So we felt pretty good that everything was getting used. But now where there's a chance to do some value-added stuff, we're very enthused. Yeah. So anyway, speaking of donations, I was going to come up here and drop a $50 bill and tell everybody that they should get on this program for Stephanie, but then she spoiled it by saying she's going to keep wearing those outfits. So I can't imagine why anybody had put a nickel in this bucket. Oh, yeah. So anyway, if I forgot anybody or forgot anything, you got to...
Let me say, nobody else has gone out in a boat with him, or some other people have. Pete and I went out, and my thought was, he's going to be catching a lot of fish that aren't whitefish, and a lot of you think that. And the day that we went out with him, first place we got on the boat and we said, how can we help you? He said, help us by sitting in that chair and don't get out of it. Okay? And it's just a rhythm they go through. But every fish that came up, they had one other fish than a whitefish, and it was a lawyer, which they also keep.
Yes.
And every fish comes out of the water alive. And you guys are eating them in the restaurant. They come out alive. They go, and he measures each one. And then they go into the ice bins, and they're covered with ice right away. And then as they move to the second net, they lower them into the bottom of the boat and put tarps over them to keep them colder, even colder. And then when they come in with them, and these things are handled like gold. And that's why they taste so good when they get to the restaurant. So
thank you. Yeah, thank you. Yeah. And I credit some of that going back to the beginning of my story. When I first worked with Weborg's and they worked with Elaine, they were very careful with their fish. But I also had a restaurant background, so I'm very, I treat food as being sacred. And I tell people that, you want to eat that fish, you better take care of it, So we're very religious and about that. So thanks for mentioning that, Rodney. And the other part of that is, how much ice did you use today? Well, 1,200 pounds? Yeah, 1,200 pounds of ice that he takes with him. So that's before they get back to the plant. Then they use another 1,200 packing them and everything else. So we're very conscious of quality.
Other half and then rotate through them. So keep, for the same reason, to keep them cold and keep them.
I don't know if you all heard that, but what he does is we unload and half of them go right in our cooler until we're ready to dress them or process them. So to keep them cold, and that's the real beauty of our new plant is we've got plenty of ice making capability, which we haven't had before, but no matter what the temperature, he can keep that processing room at 55 degrees. So it makes a big difference than it being 75. Tom?
What's the prognosis on the return of the chubs or the perch,
or even whitefish in Lake Michigan?
I don't know. It's very concerning. And, everybody just kind of shrugs. But, the trout are doing well, and they're reproducing, so we're claiming we should get some of that. And the salmon are doing good, because now the main focus of all the management groups, and there's so many of them you can't even remember them all, are to keep the alewife population big enough to support the salmon fishery. That's the number one overriding concern of fish management in Lake Michigan. By the feds, by the, So.
Is that because of the sports fisher?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, yeah. And I spent a lot of time thinking about this. And what I really find amazing is that, when I'm talking about engaging the public, so here you got these people, and they had their walleye wagons, and they planted, walleye in Green Bay until it was saturated, and it's hurt the perch particularly. They eat small whitefish, but the whitefish eat walleye eggs, so maybe we're getting back at them. But I don't know. But it's like, because they put that fish in the water, they think they own the water, and the water belongs to everybody of the state, And we're, obviously we're running a business and we're trying to make a living, but we're also supplying people with good, wholesome food, and that gets lost in the shuffle. So, yeah. Pete?
You have an open house and a one-year anniversary coming up?
Yes, we do. What day is that, Kristie?
Next Thursday, everyone's invited. And customer appreciation, 1-year anniversary next Thursday, June 27th, from 4 to 7. We'll have complimentary beverages and appetizers. There'll be food truck will be there, and we'll have some live acoustic music from some local musicians. So it'll be great.
Yeah, it's.
Tour the facility, and the shop will be open late. And yes, come celebrate with us, because we're just very thankful. And
It's pretty hard to believe we've only been there a year, because we're very comfortable there, and it's worked out well. And every part of building that place was like it was meant to happen. We had some of that SBA low interest money come available, and we discovered that property was zoned light industrial, and you can do anything in light industrial, anything, except have a retail store. Yeah, honest to God. And we jumped through hoops, and by the time we got to the RPC at the county, they said, "Why do we keep making people do this?" Because it doesn't make sense. And they're like, "Oh, well, if there's semis and there's a store, we got to worry." And it's like, "Oh, there's semis at the grocery store. I'm sorry." But anyway, it just went through. Liberty Grove approved us, and what they did at the county is they took the side of that property that faces Old Stage Road, and they rezoned it as mixed-use commercial. Yeah, they had done something for Renards down on County S, and the girls in the zoning office suggested it to me. So I called the people that had done it for Renards, and they said, "Oh yeah, we can do that for you, $55,000." So I got on my computer and found the record of what they did for Renards and crossed out their name, put our name in, and changed the address, and here we are. So yeah, fisherman ingenuity, or or if you're broke, you got to think. Yeah, so.
You said it came by boat, it didn't come by semi.
Oh, right, yeah. So anyway, any other questions? Thanks for listening. Yeah.
You've been innovators and things like your whitefish cakes. And how's that going, and are you doing other things like that?
Oh, we're continually trying to work on stuff like that. We just created this winter a gluten-free whitefish burger that Kristie made with some spices. We're selling it in our store. We've got a couple of our other retail outlets selling it, and it's on the menu at the Blue Bear. Don't tell Dan here we're talking about, but no, I'm sure he's happy they're doing okay. But they just put it on their menu. So, Gary.
Is there any place in the world that has fish farming for whitefish?
Well, not that I know about. I was up on Manitoulin Island 3-4 years ago, and I bought an aluminum workboat up there that was just much more economical to buy than anything that was being built other places. And that guy there, nice guy on Manitoulin Island, sent me to see somebody he knew, and they had a huge cage full of whitefish, and he had cameras in there, and the fish were swimming like crazy. And I'm going, oh shit, you know. Well, then it turned out he wanted to know if I knew where he could sell them, and I told him, you know, bigger fish like that, spring coming, you know, you probably could get a pretty good price for them. And I told him what I thought they'd go for. He said, well, I can't sell them for that. I got way more than that in them. So that's something we've learned over the years, you know, that fish farming is not cheap. And it has kept the price of farm-raised fish from completely destroying, you know, the wild-caught industry. You know, there's the quality issues and all that too, but it's made a difference. The one that kind of kicked us when they started thinking in Chile that they could farm salmon just like they do in Norway, and you know, people in Chile work for $10 a week. You know, it's just a different economy. So there was some cheap salmon for a short time, but.
I got one thing to say about that, being an Alaska salmon fisherman. Friends don't leave friends eat farm fish. Okay? Because if you know what's going on in them pens,
Yeah.
you don't want no part of it.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. Okay, anybody else? All right. Oh, I thought you were raising your hand.
Thank you, Charlie.
I didn't mention my wife Kathy here, who is with us all the time. She has her own business. She doesn't work in the fishing business, but always helping, and keeping me going. So thank you.
Hey, Kathy. And you're part of the fishing industry, whether you want to be or not, right? Well, thank you all for coming. Do you want to say anything else? There's still food. If you haven't tried the 2 dips, one is with goat cheese and one is without goat cheese, and you can pick your favorite. Stop by and see Kristie. Thank you all for coming, but the boss wants to say one more thing.
I just want to encourage you, this week is what? Door County History Days. And I just want to say there are a few of you in the room. I do a little moonlighting in Sister Bay, and tomorrow is Sister Bay's Day. So I encourage you to visit the Sister Bay Historical Society tomorrow.
7 o'clock.
7 o'clock.
At their barn.
At their barn. Yep. So thank you all for coming.
Help yourself to food.